Do you know why Zhao in Qingdao is implementing a 7.5% down payment policy for homes? It's because the nationwide minimum down payment of 15% is no longer working in Qingdao. There simply aren't any buyers. So they had to cut it by half to 7.5% to attract buyers. But who are these people buying homes with a 7.5% down payment? They're mostly poor, struggling individuals. Will housing prices rise again? If even a coastal city like Qingdao can't sell its homes, what does that mean for its economy? 10 years ago, Qingdao's economy was thriving, but now it's relying on real estate. However, there are too many unsold homes in Qingdao, hence the need for a 7.5% down payment. If coastal cities' economies are struggling, what about the inland cities? In Shanxi, home prices dropped by 300,000 overnight. Homes that used to sell for over 8,000 per square meter now go for 5,000. Prices are falling in Hebei and Henan as well. Zhengzhou and Henan has the most unfinished buildings among provincial capitals. The situation is dire in Sichuan and even worse in Gansu, where municipal investment companies are going bankrupt.
The drop in Qingdao's housing market is shocking. Prices have halved and still no one is buying. In the Dongfangcheng area, prices have peaked at over 18,000 but have now dropped to over 9,000. In Shimeian, prices once reached over 20,000 but are now down to 14,000, with plenty of options and few transactions. In Liuqing and Baishahe, homes that previously sold for over 14,000 are now listed at 9,000 with no buyers. For property investors, this is a disaster. They're losing a lot of money. China's economy is sluggish and the real estate market continues to slump. Qingdao, Shandong's largest city and an important coastal center, has seen house prices fall back to 2016 levels. Local authorities are trying various measures to boost the market. Recently, a street office in Qingdao called for interviews with residents who have large bank deposits but are not buying houses. This move was mocked online. A Chinese WeChat public account, 3 Young Men, published an article on June 10th titled "From Malicious Non-Buyers to Deliberate Non-Parents." The article mentions that a Qingdao street office issued a task notice to promote home buying policies. If residents with large bank deposits were found not buying houses, it was deemed a lack of awareness, warranting a reminder talk. This task was included in employee performance evaluations. The article criticized the street office for acting like a sales department and its staff like real estate agents. The so-called street office is a grassroots government body, typically at the township level. The article likens the situation to the government's push for the 3-child policy, which was met with skepticism. Due to heavy mortgage and education costs, people were reluctant to have children, leading to declining birth rates. Those who wanted kids already had them. Those who don't want them won't have them even if 10 are allowed. Previously, Xiamen University professor Zhao Yanjing suggested linking childbirth with Social Security, penalizing those who don't have children and rewarding those who do. This proposal sparked controversy. Zhao later explained that the modern pension system requires contributions from the current generation to support the previous one. Only by reducing the welfare for those unwilling to have children will people take the 3-child policy seriously. Some netizens suggested starting the 3-child policy with civil servants, allowing them to take exams only after having 1 child and offering extended parental leave for multiple children. The article concludes, "I fear one day the 3-child policy will be enforced like the strict checking of malicious non-buyers. If you're found to have savings but aren't having children, you'll be in the wrong." The article sparked online debate. Some questioned how the community office knew who had large deposits, while others noted there were many malicious non-buyers. Meanwhile, street office staff confirmed receiving notices to include new home sales in performance evaluations, adding that failing to meet targets could result in penalties for community leaders. After the article spread, Liang Xiaohua, a staff member at a law firm in California, told a media outlet, "Street offices in China's administrative system are grassroots organizations. It's interesting that they've become real estate promoters with administrative intervention in the market. Real estate was heavily suppressed in recent years, but now, as the economy and real estate collapse, they're trying to reverse this." Regarding the policy of summoning people for questioning, person's savings are their own property. Without due questioning, the government has no reason or right to check them. How can they even find out about residents' large deposits? Such an investigation is illegal. Even if they do find deposits, unless it's through proper legal channels and they find illegal activity, they can't take further action. On what grounds does the street office have the authority to summon people for questioning? Liang Xiaohua further pointed out, why do such absurd things happen in China? It's because in an authoritarian society and regime, the government tries to act as the parent in all aspects of society, regardless of whether it can actually do so. Their policies constantly flip 180 degrees, and they're very short-sighted, with no long-term planning. Moreover, even when they intervene, the decisions are unscientific and often made impulsively by top leaders. Radio Free Asia reported that Zhang, a real estate insider from Guangdong, noted that due to high vacancy rates and reduced household incomes, the government is feeling financial pressure. Therefore, it has ordered local governments to take on the responsibility of persuading people to buy homes. Some state-owned enterprises in Guangdong are holding meetings for mid-level cadres, encouraging them to voluntarily buy homes. Banks, in line with the new policy, have lowered the down payment to as low as 7.5%, yet the more favorable the policy, the less willing people are to buy homes. Zhang, a resident of Qingdao, said he had heard of neighborhood committees mobilizing people with large deposits to voluntarily buy homes, claiming it was to help the government solve its problems. However, there are too many houses in Qingdao now, especially with so much construction in the past 2 years. Both new and second-hand houses are not selling. They even launched a program to exchange old houses for new ones with government subsidies. Zhang said that even with government subsidies for buying new homes, public response remains lukewarm. The main reasons are that people don't have money and are worried about the economic outlook. If the economy collapses, there will be no security for the people. Zheng, a resident of Shanghai, said that there are too many houses in China, with enough to accommodate 3 billion people. His own two-bedroom apartment saw its price drop from over 4 million yuan to about 2.7 million yuan, a drop of more than 1.3 million yuan. The price per square meter fell from over 50,000 yuan to around 37,000 yuan. For ordinary people, even if house prices fall further, those who can't afford it still can't buy. Low wages only cover daily living expenses, leaving no extra money to buy a house. In fact, mainland media reported in 2022 that the Xuejia Island Street Office in Qingdao's West Coast New Area issued a notice on June 17, 2022. This notice promoted the purchase of new commodity housing. It required each cooperative to complete the signing of at least 2 new houses by the end of June, with each community responsible for summarizing and reporting residents' home buying intentions to the Development Guarantee Center. The notice also stated that anyone who maliciously does not buy a house, if found with large bank deposits, will be reminded to talk. This task was included in the 2022 work assessment, with additional points for cooperatives that exceeded the targets, and specific assessment methods to be formulated separately. A staff member of the Xuejia Island Street Office confirmed on June 18, 2022, that this was true, and stated that the higher-level deployment referred to in the notice was a joint red-headed document issued by the Qingdao West Coast New Area Management Committee Office. Subsequently, Securities Times commented that stabilizing the housing market should be tailored to each city and should not be overcorrected. Housing prices in China continue to fall. According to reports from mainland media, in Xiaohuayuan District, Zhangjiakou City, Hebei Province, a 60-square-meter two-bedroom apartment is selling for 60,000 yuan, and a 78-square-meter two-bedroom, two-living-room apartment is selling for 80,000 yuan, approximately $11,000. Similar situations have been reported in several provinces, including Sichuan, Guizhou, Guangxi, Gansu, Inner Mongolia, Heilongjiang, and Liaoning. Even in the Pearl River Delta region, such as Jieyang, Heyuan, and Qingyuan in Guangdong, the lowest housing prices have dropped to around 1,000 yuan per square meter. Chinese Vice Premier He Lifeng mentioned that these homes would be used for affordable housing, but no timeline or target was given, nor were details on the funding source provided. The Chinese Communist Party, CCP, has repeatedly introduced measures to rescue the housing market, but these efforts have been ineffective. On May 17th, the CCP introduced several new measures, including the removal of the lower limit on mortgage interest rates, reducing the minimum down payment ratio, and that the government would purchase unsold commercial housing to convert into public rental housing. Chinese Vice Premier He Lifeng stated at the National Conference on Ensuring the Delivery of Housing that in cities with high inventories of commercial housing, the government could purchase some unsold properties at reasonable prices to stabilize housing prices. Economist Qingdao, based in the United States, told Voice of America that after China's economic downturn, many real estate developers went bankrupt, leading to numerous unfinished buildings. The CCP had to step in to purchase these properties for affordable housing. However, Qing questioned how effective this would be, given his understanding of the CCP's execution capabilities. He suggested that ultimately, central or local governments might exploit the situation. Qingdao pointed out that although official documents stated that the government would purchase unfinished buildings at reasonable prices, the so-called reasonable price is debatable. For example, a property worth 1 billion yuan might only be bought for 30 million yuan by the government. Developers facing bankruptcy have no choice but to accept these offers, incurring significant losses. Additionally, during the installment payment process, the government might use Chinese-style contract execution, where payments are not completed. On the other hand, by acquiring inventory housing, the CCP can prevent large-scale social unrest, providing social housing for low-income groups and gaining public support, which serves as a form of social stability maintenance. The key issue in the CCP's efforts to save the housing market is funding. Qingdao notes that China's funding sources involve several state-owned banks. This indicates that the CCP does not have sufficient resources or cash to resolve the crisis, hence the issuance of long-term special bonds. This year, China plans to issue 1 trillion yuan in special bonds, with the first batch of 40 billion yuan issued on May 17th, with a maturity of 30 years. Economist Qingdao said, "This is essentially a way for them to raise funds indirectly. They don't have the money, so they're looking for policy directions, or rather, they are out of options but still need to find ways to raise the necessary funds." In February, China's Ministry of Finance announced that the country's national fiscal revenue for 2023 would be 21.6 trillion yuan. Meanwhile, local governments are heavily indebted, with debts totaling about $9 trillion. A report released by the Zhuge House Search Data Research Center in early June showed that the average price of second-hand housing in 100 key cities has been declining for 15 consecutive months on a month-on-month basis and for 17 consecutive months on a year-on-year basis. The report indicated that in May, the average prices of second-hand housing in all city tiers continued to decline. First-tier cities showed more price resilience compared to second- and third-tier cities, but even first-tier cities experienced a 6-month streak of month-on-month declines. Columnist Wang He analyzed that the bursting of the housing bubble in China has led to the collapse of the massive housing market. In this process, no rescue measures have been effective. Currently, the housing market has become a black hole for the Chinese economy, and without an enormous injection of funds, it will continue to drain resources. He noted that Beijing has never clearly understood the nature of the housing bubble's burst, leading to slow and weak actions that are clearly inadequate. China is facing a dual crisis, a real estate crisis and a population crisis. The long-standing one-child policy has led to a continuous decline in birth rates. The Chinese government fully relaxed the two-child policy in 2016 and further allowed 3 children in 2021. It also enacted various measures to encourage childbirth, such as tax exemptions, extended maternity leave, and housing subsidies. However, the impact has been minimal. By the end of 2022, China's population saw a negative growth for the first time. According to official data released in April 2023, over 85% of China's provinces had a negative natural growth rate. Among them, Liaoning and Jilin saw the highest negative growth rates, both exceeding 5 per thousand. The population data was not released. As the population crisis in China worsens, many families are choosing not to have children. These families are referred to as DINK, double income, no kids. Voice of America interviewed 32-year-old Zhang Yu, who lives in northeast China and works in the infrastructure industry. He said his industry experienced significant salary cuts this year, with wages generally falling by 30%. He feels fortunate not to be married or have children, as it would have been even more challenging. He believes that the poor economic situation directly affects marriage rates. In 2023, China's economy was not performing well due to the real estate downturn, local debt issues, and high youth unemployment rates. These factors contributed to many young people having a pessimistic outlook on the future, making it difficult for them to feel motivated about marriage. J.C. Zhang, a 27-year-old from Beijing, currently lives with her parents. She jokingly refers to herself as a NEET, not in education, employment, or training, who relies on her parents. She says, without a job or a partner, being single is easier than being married. One person eats, the whole family isn't hungry. The man who works in infrastructure mentioned that due to economic reasons, even his married friends are reluctant to have children. He said, among colleagues, there are 2 married couples who are dinks, both with master's degrees or higher. He also encountered several women during blind dates who explicitly stated their preference to remain child-free. More and more young Chinese, like him and JC, are choosing not to get married. On December 28, 2023, the China Population and Employment Statistics Yearbook revealed that the unmarried rate was 51.3% for the 25 to 29 age group, 18.4% for the 30 to 34 age group, and 8% for the 35 to 39 age group. A report released by the Beijing-based think tank Yuhua Population Research on February 21st indicated that the cost of raising a child to the age of 18 is about 6.3 times the per capita GDP in China. The report stated that in order to raise children, women experience a significant reduction in paid work time and wages, with women being more affected than men. Due to the current social environment in China being unfriendly to women's childbirth, the time cost and opportunity cost for women to have children are too high. The report concluded, due to high cost of childbirth and the difficulty for women in balancing family and work, the average fertility desire of Chinese people is among the lowest in the world. Assistant Professor of Sociology at the National University of Singapore, Mu Zheng, believes that ultimately the intense pressure and competitive environment makes it difficult for many young people to accept marriage and childbirth.